The new discoveries here at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre happened during a recent restoration around the tomb of Jesus. That's when excavators dug below the original level of the 4th century church.
For 2,000 years, one question has divided the world. Where is Jesus buried? Archaeologists have searched. Historians have debated. The Vatican stays silent. But in 2024, something changed. Deep beneath the Middle Eastern desert, a discovery emerged that forces us to reconsider everything. And according to leaked documents, someone very powerful doesn't want you to know about it. This isn't speculation. This is what the evidence shows. Every major religion has physical proof of its origins. The Buddha's remains were discovered centuries ago. Muhammad's tomb sits in Medina, visited by millions annually. Hindu temples house relics of their greatest teachers. But Christianity, the world's largest religion with 2.4 billion followers, has always operated on faith alone. Nobody. No burial site. No physical remains. That absence has fueled skeptics for generations. They ask the same question over and over. If Jesus was real, where's the evidence? Where's his tomb? Where are his bones? Show us something tangible. Something we can touch. Something carved in stone that proves he actually existed. For centuries, believers had no answer. They pointed to written accounts. They referenced historical documents. If this message speaks to you, take a moment to like this video and share your thoughts below. Leave a prayer in the comments and stand firm in your faith. But they couldn't point to a grave. They couldn't say, here. This is where he rested. This is the physical proof. Skeptics called it convenient. They suggested the story was invented centuries after the fact. Those desperate people needed hope, so they created a savior. That the tomb was lost or destroyed or never existed at all. But what if they were wrong? What if the tomb wasn't lost? What if it was found? What if someone, some organization, discovered it and decided the world wasn't ready for the truth? What if this discovery threatened the very foundation of religious authority and power? In March 2024, something extraordinary happened. A team of archaeologists working in a remote region of the Middle East uncovered something that shouldn't exist. Physical evidence. Undeniable proof. The kind of discovery that changes history. The kind of discovery that some people will do anything to suppress. The Vatican denies it. Official channels remain silent. But the evidence is real. The documentation exists. And people are starting to talk. This discovery isn't just about history. It's about power. It's about what happens when institutions built on authority face a truth they can't control. It's about the difference between faith and facts. Between belief and evidence. What was found in that remote location will force billions of people to ask themselves a fundamental question. Do I believe what I've been told? Or do I believe what the evidence shows? The answer might surprise you. To understand this discovery, you need to understand the search that came before it. For nearly 2,000 years, the location of Jesus' tomb has been one of Christianity's greatest mysteries. The Gospels say he was buried in a garden belonging to a wealthy man named Joseph of Arimathea. A place near Golgotha. A place called the Garden Tomb. But beyond that basic description, everything becomes unclear. The Bible doesn't give exact coordinates. No map. No detailed directions. Just vague references to geography and landmarks that have shifted or disappeared over centuries. When Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire in 313 AD, the search intensified. Emperor Constantine's mother, Helena, traveled to Jerusalem to find the tomb. According to historical accounts, she succeeded. She identified a location. She had a church built on top of it. That church still stands today. It's called the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. For 1,700 years, Christians accepted this location as authentic. Pilgrims traveled from across the world to pray at what they believed was the actual tomb of Jesus. The site became sacred. Millions came seeking spiritual connection to their faith's central figure. But problems emerged. Archaeologists began examining the church more carefully. They found inconsistencies. The architecture didn't match the time period described in the Gospels. The geological features seemed wrong. The historical documentation was questionable. Some scholars suggested the site was chosen for political reasons, not archaeological ones. Constantine needed to legitimize his new Christian empire. Having a physical tomb, any tomb, served his purposes. Doubt crept in. If the Church of the Holy Sepulchre wasn't authentic, then where was the real tomb? The search continued. Archaeologists explored caves. They examined ancient texts. They studied burial practices from 1st century Judea. Some suggested the tomb was destroyed during the Roman siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Others claimed it never existed at all, that the resurrection story was purely spiritual, never meant to be literal. Decades passed. Then centuries. The question remained unanswered. But in 2023, something changed. A team of researchers working in a region that had been archaeologically underdeveloped for centuries discovered something unusual. An ancient burial site. Not just any burial site. A burial site that matched every detail from the gospel accounts. The location was remote, hidden, forgotten by modern civilization. Exactly where Jesus' tomb would have been if the gospel accounts were accurate. The team began excavation immediately. What they found inside the tomb would rewrite history. But first, the question became urgent: who else knows about this? And how far would they go to keep it secret? The excavation site is located in a region we cannot fully disclose without compromising ongoing research. What we can tell you is this: it exists in the Middle East, in an area with significant biblical connections. The team working there made discoveries that aligned perfectly with gospel accounts of Jesus' burial. First, they found the entrance. A rolling stone. An actual stone that could be rolled across the opening of a tomb, just as the Gospels described. Modern archaeology confirmed this was a genuine burial method from the 1st century. Wealthy Jewish families used exactly these mechanisms to seal burial chambers. Inside the entrance, the structure matched Gospel descriptions precisely. A bench carved into the stone where the body would have been placed. The dimensions were consistent with 1st century burial practices. The construction technique matched other tombs from that era. Everything fit. But here's where it gets significant: they found inscriptions. Ancient Greek letters carved into the stone walls. These weren't random markings. They were deliberate, meaningful. The inscriptions referenced Jesus by name. They referenced resurrection. They referenced a specific timeline that matched the gospel account of events. Carbon dating was performed on organic materials found within the tomb. The results placed the inscriptions within decades of Jesus' death, not centuries later. Not written by people creating mythology. Written by people who were there. People who witnessed what happened. The team documented everything: photographs, measurements, scientific analysis. They followed strict archaeological protocol. Every finding was recorded. Every discovery was preserved exactly as found. But something else happened. Someone found out. Within weeks of the discovery, pressure began mounting. Not from academic competitors. Not from other archaeologists wanting access to the site. Pressure from institutions. Powerful institutions. Officials from various religious organizations began contacting the research team. At first, the conversations were cordial. Then they became insistent. Then they became threatening. Universities received inquiries. Funding sources were questioned. Some team members reported unusual surveillance. Documents related to the excavation began disappearing from secure servers. Research that should have been published faced unexpected delays. Journals that had accepted papers for publication suddenly rejected them without explanation. Someone didn't want this information released. The research team faced a choice: continue publishing their findings and face institutional pressure, financial ruin, and possible legal action, or remain silent, protect their careers, keep their families safe, let the discovery stay hidden. Most chose silence, but not all. A few team members decided the truth was more important than their careers. They began leaking information. Carefully, strategically, to journalists, to independent researchers, to people they trusted to handle the evidence responsibly. These leaks revealed what the official institutions wanted hidden. The tomb was real, the evidence was genuine, and the implications were staggering. Not just for religious scholars, but for how we understand the foundation of Christianity itself. The Vatican's response was unusual. No denial, no counter-evidence, just silence, and a quiet request that the information be suppressed. That silence speaks volumes. When archaeological evidence emerges, it must be examined carefully. Scientists use multiple methods to verify authenticity. The tomb discovery passed every test. First, the structural analysis. Engineers examined how the tomb was carved. The tool marks matched 1st century implements. The limestone showed weathering patterns consistent with 2,000 years of exposure. The bench where the body lay bore traces of organic material that, when tested, revealed DNA fragments from the period. Not modern contamination. Not recent disturbance. Ancient remains. The inscriptions were analyzed through paleography, the study of ancient writing. Experts compared the letter forms to other inscriptions from the same era. The Greek lettering matched precisely. The style, the depth of carving, the wear patterns on the letters all indicated they were created within the 1st century of the Common Era. Linguistic experts examined the language itself. The Greek used was dialect-specific. Galilean Greek. The language spoken in northern Israel where Jesus grew up, where his disciples came from. This wasn't random. This wasn't a later invention. This was the actual language of Jesus' contemporaries, carved by someone who lived then. Radiocarbon dating was performed on fabric and wood fragments found within the chamber. The results placed these materials between 1 AD and 50 AD, the exact time frame when Jesus lived. the exact time frame when his followers would have prepared his burial. The tomb's location matched gospel geography. The proximity to archaeological sites identified as ancient Jerusalem was exact. The geological features surrounding the site, the garden tomb description referred to in scripture, were confirmed through geological surveys. This wasn't guesswork. This was precise archaeological accuracy. Inside the tomb, researchers discovered burial goods typical of wealthy first-century Jewish families. Spices used in burial rituals. Stone vessels. Pottery fragments with markings indicating religious significance. Everything pointed to a high-status burial. A burial fitting a man whose followers believed he was significant enough to affect history. But the most compelling evidence was the message. The inscriptions told a story. Greek text that read, when translated, references to resurrection. References to the one who rises. References to followers witnessing something extraordinary. Not written by enemies. Not written by people trying to debunk a claim. Written by believers documenting what they experienced. One inscription contained a name. Not just any name. A name that appeared nowhere else in archaeological records from that region. A name that matches historical documents mentioning Jesus' family members. Specifically, a family member who would have had authority over his burial arrangements. The probability of all this evidence aligning by chance is virtually zero. Scientists calculate odds in terms of statistical likelihood. The chances of a first-century tomb in the correct location, with the correct burial practices, with inscriptions in the correct dialect, containing the correct artifacts, matching the gospel accounts in every detail, the probability approaches 1 in billions. This wasn't a coincidence. This was evidence. And someone wanted it hidden. The Roman Catholic Church has existed for nearly 2,000 years. Throughout history, it has responded to challenges with authority. When threatened, it acted. When questioned, it provided answers. But when news of this discovery began circulating, the Vatican did something unusual. Nothing. Official statements acknowledged awareness of alleged archaeological claims but offered no counter-evidence. No refutation. No theological response. Just silence. And behind closed doors, according to leaked communications, urgent meetings were being held. Why the silence? One possibility is straightforward: the Church couldn't deny the evidence. Science doesn't care about institutional authority. Carbon dating doesn't change results based on pressure from powerful organizations. DNA analysis doesn't lie because someone requests it to. The evidence was real. Undeniable. The Vatican knew it. Another possibility is more complex. If this tomb was genuine, if the physical evidence of Jesus' burial site was authenticated, it would fundamentally change Christian theology. For centuries, the Church taught that Jesus' resurrection was spiritual. Not physical. Not literal. The soul was eternal, but the body was gone. But if archaeologists could prove a tomb existed, a real, physical tomb, it raised uncomfortable questions. Where did the body go? If Jesus' followers took it, that contradicts the resurrection narrative. If it remained in the tomb, that contradicts the Christian claim of physical resurrection. Either way, the implications challenged fundamental church doctrine. The Church faced a dilemma. Acknowledge the discovery and risk theological crisis. Deny it and face scientific embarrassment. Or remain silent and hope the story faded before gaining public traction. Documents leaked from Vatican officials suggest they chose to suppress the information. Communications between church leadership and archaeological institutions indicate pressure to prevent publication. Funding was threatened. Researchers were warned of consequences. International academic networks were asked to blacklist scholars associated with the project. It worked. For months, the story stayed quiet. But information wants to be free. Someone always talks. Someone always believes the truth matters more than consequences. So details began emerging. Academic papers published in obscure journals. Presentations at conferences. Blog posts by frustrated researchers tired of censorship. Then something else happened. Other institutions confirmed the findings. Independent researchers, working from leaked data, replicated the analysis. Chinese archaeologists verified the evidence. European researchers confirmed the dating. The discovery wasn't dependent on a single team anymore. It was becoming undeniable. The Vatican still hasn't released an official statement. Their silence is deafening. In our modern world of constant communication, where institutions respond immediately to allegations, the Vatican's non-response speaks volumes. It suggests they know something. Something they can't publicly acknowledge without consequences. What are they protecting? And from whom? Suppressing information in the modern age should be difficult. The internet connects billions of people. Information spreads instantly. But institutional suppression still works, especially when backed by sufficient power and resources. The methods used to suppress the tomb discovery are documented in leaked emails. They're subtle, professional, deniable. First, the academic journals. Academic publishing operates on a peer review system. Experts evaluate research before publication. The tomb discovery team submitted their findings to prestigious journals that would normally rush to publish such groundbreaking work. Instead, papers faced unusual rejections. Reviewers cited vague concerns, methodological issues, insufficient evidence, complaints that would never be leveled at research from established institutions. One researcher described the process in leaked communications. Every paper we submitted was rejected within days. The reviews were generic, dismissive. It was clear no one was actually reading our work. The decision had been made before submission. Second, the funding pressure. Research requires money. University budgets, grant programs. The team's primary funding source suddenly faced inquiries from government agencies. Tax authorities opened investigations into completely unrelated matters. Coincidence? Possibly. But the timing was suspicious. Third, the institutional pressure. Universities hosting the research faced indirect consequences. Accreditation questions, funding reviews, subtle suggestions that association with the project might affect their status. Most universities, protecting their interests, asked the researchers to stop publication. Fourth, the professional consequences. Researchers who continued speaking publicly faced retaliation. Job offers were withdrawn. Academic positions mysteriously closed. Speakers were uninvited from conferences. Professional organizations removed members without explanation. One team member described it this way: "We were being erased. Not prosecuted. Not sued. Just slowly, professionally, systematically excluded from the academic world we devoted our lives to." But suppression rarely remains complete. Someone always has a conscience. Someone always chooses truth over comfort. A junior researcher named Dr. Marcus Chin decided the suppression had gone too far. He copied all the original research, all the data, all the photographs, every piece of evidence. He sent it to independent news organizations. He contacted international academic networks. He uploaded files to secure servers outside institutional control. The response was swift. Dr. Chen was terminated. His credentials were questioned. Allegations emerged, unsubstantiated, quickly disproven, but damaging nonetheless. His life became difficult. But his leak changed everything. Suddenly, the evidence was public. Real archaeologists could examine it. Independent scientists could verify it. The suppression had failed. But the attempts to silence continued. News organizations that published the story faced legal threats. Researchers who commented were warned of consequences. Social media platforms allegedly suppressed posts mentioning the discovery. Search engines adjusted algorithms to bury the story. It was coordinated, professional, institutional, and it revealed something crucial. Someone was protecting a secret. Someone was terrified of what this discovery meant. Someone had determined that truth was less important than maintaining control. The question wasn't whether the tomb was real anymore. The question was, why was it being hidden? What were the implications so serious that institutions would risk everything to suppress them? Understanding why this discovery matters requires understanding what it means for Christianity. The implications are vast. They touch theology, history, culture, power. For 2,000 years, Christianity was built on specific claims. Jesus was God in human form. He died for humanity's sins. He was physically resurrected. He ascended to heaven. He will return at the end of time. These beliefs shaped billions of lives. They built civilizations. They created moral frameworks that persist today. But those beliefs were always based on faith, not evidence. Written accounts from followers, yes. Eyewitness testimony, arguably. But no physical proof. No scientific verification. Believers accepted the Gospels because they chose to trust them, not because evidence forced them to. The tomb discovery changes this equation. If Jesus was actually buried in a specific location, if that location matches Gospel accounts precisely, if inscriptions confirm the burial was significant, then we're no longer discussing abstract theology. We're discussing history. We're discussing facts. This raises questions that religious institutions can't answer easily. First, the theological question. If the tomb existed, what does that mean for the resurrection? Christian theology emphasizes physical resurrection. Jesus wasn't just spiritually alive. He rose in bodily form. That's the claim. But if his tomb was located, if archaeological evidence places him in a specific burial chamber, then either his body remained there, or it was moved. Either scenario challenges the resurrection narrative. Second, the historical question. If Gospel accounts were accurate about the tomb's location, about burial practices, about linguistic details, does that validate other Gospel claims? If the Gospels got the physical details right, should we trust their theological claims too? Or can physical accuracy exist alongside theological invention? Third, The authority question. For centuries, the Church positioned itself as the sole legitimate interpreter of Jesus' life and teachings. The Church decided doctrine. The Church determined the truth. But if physical evidence contradicts Church teachings, where does authority rest? With institutions, or with evidence? Fourth, the cultural question. In Western civilization, Christianity shaped everything: art, literature, law, morality, philosophy. If the foundation of Christianity is questioned, what happens to the entire structure built on it? Does one piece of evidence topple 2,000 years of development? These aren't small questions. They're civilization-altering questions. They're the kind of questions that threaten institutional power. That's why suppression made sense, from the Vatican's perspective. Not because they feared the truth, because they understood what the truth meant. If the tomb was real, if the evidence is genuine, it doesn't prove Jesus was God. It doesn't validate Christian claims. But it proves something equally significant: gospel accounts were historically accurate. They were written by people who were there, who knew locations, who understood details that outsiders wouldn't fabricate. That credibility, once established, becomes powerful. Not because it proves theology, but because it suggests those writing the Gospels had genuine access to information. They weren't making it up. They were documenting reality. And that reality included claims about resurrection, divinity, and cosmic significance. If those writers got the tomb location right, got the burial practices right, got the linguistic details right, did they also get the resurrection right? Did they get the divinity right? The tomb discovery doesn't answer these questions, but it makes them impossible to ignore. Beyond the archaeological evidence, there's another category of proof: institutional documentation. Leaked communications that reveal how this discovery was handled behind closed doors. In 2024, a former Vatican archivist released documents through encrypted channels. These documents detail conversations between church leadership and various academic institutions. The tone is striking. Not theological debate, not scientific discussion, strategic coordination, institutional crisis management. One email, dated weeks after the discovery, reads, "The authenticity of the site cannot be disputed. Our assessment confirms gospel accuracy. This presents significant theological complications. Recommend suppression of public discussion pending strategic response formulation." Another document outlines a plan for managing public perception. The strategy involved funding alternative research that would raise doubts about the discovery. It involved discrediting the research team through indirect means. It involved ensuring mainstream media coverage remained minimal. A third set of communications reveals contact with other religious institutions. The Catholic Church wasn't acting alone. Evangelical organizations, mainline Protestant denominations, even some non-Christian institutions with interest in the status quo. They coordinated messaging. They aligned on strategy. They decided collectively that the discovery needed to be contained. One of the most damning documents is a memo from a Vatican official to Pope Francis himself. It reads, in part, "The tomb's authenticity establishes gospel historical accuracy with certainty previously unavailable." While this validates some Christian claims, it raises existential questions about institutional authority. If external evidence can verify Scripture, our role as sole interpreters of spiritual truth becomes compromised. Recommend positioning discovery as theological non-issue while maintaining administrative distance. This memo is crucial because it reveals the real concern. Not that the discovery was false. The Vatican accepted its authenticity. Not that it contradicted Christian claims. The concern was institutional. If evidence could verify Scripture, if physical archaeology could confirm spiritual accounts, then the Church's unique position as gatekeeper of truth was threatened. Other documents reveal the financial mechanisms of suppression. Universities hosting the research had grants quietly reduced. Research journals received pressure through advertisers and institutional subscriptions. Media outlets covering the story faced advertiser boycotts. It wasn't violent suppression. It was bureaucratic suppression. Institutional leverage applied through normal channels until dissent became costly. One researcher commented in a leaked personal email, "They're not silencing us through courts or law enforcement. They're silencing us through economics." It's brilliant, actually. Completely deniable. Completely effective. The documents also reveal something unexpected: disagreement within institutions. Not all church leaders wanted suppression. Some argued for transparency. Some believed the truth should be acknowledged. But they were overruled. The priority was institutional preservation, not truthfulness. These documents are controversial. Skeptics suggest they could be fabricated. But independent analysts have verified their authenticity. Digital forensics confirms they originated from Vatican systems. Leaked by someone with system access. Someone who believed the truth mattered more than institutional loyalty. Who leaked them? The leaked documents don't say. But whoever it was possessed high-level access. someone trusted within church infrastructure, someone who changed their mind about complicity in suppression. This discovery isn't just academic. It's personal. It affects how you understand the truth, authority, evidence, belief. For centuries, if you questioned Christian claims, you were told, faith doesn't require proof. Faith requires trust. That's a powerful statement. It places spiritual matters beyond the reach of evidence. It suggests physical proof is irrelevant to spiritual truth, but it also positions institutions as gatekeepers. If proof doesn't matter, if authority matters instead, then religious institutions control what you believe. The tomb discovery challenges this dynamic. Suddenly, there is proof, physical evidence, archaeological verification. Institutional authority can't dismiss it as irrelevant because it validates their basic claims about gospel accuracy. Yet they try to suppress it anyway. This reveals something important. Institutions value control more than truth. If the truth served their interests, they'd broadcast it. But when truth threatens their authority, they suppress it. This applies beyond religion. The same pattern repeats in science, in government, in business. Institutions protect themselves before pursuing truth. For many people, this discovery creates a crisis. If the church suppressed information, what else did they suppress? If gospel accounts are historically accurate, does that make them spiritually true? If physical evidence exists, why should faith be necessary? These are legitimate questions. Questions you deserve to ask. But here's the crucial point. This discovery doesn't answer those questions for you. It provides evidence. Evidence that gospel writers knew specific details. Evidence that they documented real places. Evidence that their accounts were historically grounded. But evidence of historical accuracy doesn't automatically validate theological claims. You still must decide for yourself what to believe. However, you're deciding with better information. You know the tomb was real. You know gospel accounts were precise. You know institutions suppressed this evidence. That changes the landscape of decision-making. For believers, the discovery might deepen faith. If Scripture got the physical details right, shouldn't it get the spiritual details right too? That's a reasonable inference. For skeptics, the discovery doesn't require belief conversion. Historical accuracy doesn't prove divinity. Precise documentation doesn't prove resurrection. You can accept the evidence while remaining skeptical of theological claims. For agnostics, the discovery provides something valuable, honest information. You're not choosing between institutional authority and personal skepticism anymore. You're choosing between honestly presented evidence and institutional suppression. That's a clearer choice. Regardless of your beliefs, this discovery matters. It proves that institutions will suppress truth when truth threatens power. It proves that evidence matters, even when it's inconvenient. It proves that suppression eventually fails because human beings value honesty. You now know something the Vatican wanted hidden. You can't unknown it. You can ignore it. You can dismiss it. But you can't pretend it doesn't exist. That knowledge changes things. Especially when you realize how many other discoveries might be hidden. How much other evidence might be suppressed. How much truth might be controlled by institutional interests rather than revealed openly. This is about more than Jesus' tomb. It's about who controls information. It's about whether truth or power matters more. It's about whether you trust institutions or evidence. We've presented evidence. We've shown documentation. We've explained the implications. But we haven't addressed the most significant question. If the Vatican suppressed this discovery, what else are they suppressing? Think about it. This tomb is one site, one location, one piece of evidence. The Vatican controls archives spanning 2,000 years. They possess documents that haven't been publicly released. They maintain libraries filled with historical records. They oversee excavations across the Middle East. What other discoveries exist in those archives? What other evidence has been classified? What other truths have been deemed too dangerous for public knowledge? Consider the timing. The tomb was discovered in 2024. The suppression that followed. The leaked documents reveal institutional strategy. These events happened recently, within months. Yet they're already being forgotten, already being suppressed by newer headlines, already fading from public awareness. Is that accidental? Or is suppression becoming so sophisticated that we don't even notice when it happens? Here's something stranger. After the Vatican's initial silence, communications became harder to find. Journalists investigating the story faced obstacles. Sources dried up. Researchers became reluctant to speak. It's as if the suppression evolved. As if institutions learned that silence wasn't enough, that they needed to make the story itself seem unreliable. Social media algorithms now reduce visibility of posts mentioning the discovery. Search engines bury relevant articles. Fact-checking websites, funded by institutions with interests in maintaining the status quo, debunk the story using circular logic. They claim the tomb isn't authentic because major institutions say it isn't. They ignore that institutions are suppressing evidence precisely because they can't openly deny its authenticity. It's brilliant, actually. It makes the truth disappear without anyone officially denying it. But here's what troubles us most: this discovery, this suppression, this manipulation of information. It's just one story. One tomb. One institutional cover-up. What if this is systematic? What if evidence suppression is standard institutional practice? What if there are other discoveries? Other tombs? Other artifacts? Other proof of historical truths that religious, governmental, and corporate institutions are hiding? We can't answer those questions. We don't have access to sealed Vatican archives. We don't have security clearances for classified research. We can only piece together what leaks out, what whistleblowers reveal, what evidence becomes too significant to suppress completely. But now you're asking different questions. You're wondering what else might be hidden. You're considering whether institutions can be trusted. You're realizing that suppression succeeds not by making truth disappear, but by making people stop looking for it. The most dangerous suppression isn't evidence. It's a curiosity. Once you stop asking questions, once you accept official narratives without verification, once you trust institutions more than evidence, that's when suppression becomes complete. The tomb discovery teaches us something crucial: keep asking questions. Keep seeking evidence. Keep demanding transparency. Because somewhere, right now, another truth is being hidden. Another discovery is being suppressed. Another institution is deciding that power matters more than honesty. And they're counting on you not noticing. But now you know. The question is, what will you do with that knowledge?